Click to learn more. The show that sounds like clickbait,
but is actually two dorks.
I almost messed it up. I'm Lidi.
I'm Dorm.
And today, Dorm.
Yes.
We are going to talk about a topic.
Good. I like when we talk about topics.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a topic. We're going to discuss a modern torture device. So.
Okay, waterboarding.
Kind of. It has a very storied history that has caused pain for both men and women throughout the ages.
Yeah, most torture devices are gender neutral, I would say.
We're talking about high heels.
Okay.
We're going to talk about high heels today.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, I'm glad it's not murder. Aw, man. Damn it.
High heels. So here's the draw of the high heel. Now, as we know it today in modern times.
Okay, can I make a goof first?
You absolutely can.
High heels. All right, I'm done. Somebody's going to be thinking like, high hopes, and I just wanted to do it before they did.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
Some 60-year-old member of our audience is going to be really happy that I made that
I'm the only 16-year-old member of our audience.
Well, you didn't like it at all.
I didn't get it. All right. Here's what high heels do for your body.
Okay.
They make the wearer taller, obviously.
Sure. They
accentuate the calf muscle.
Yeah.
And the length of the leg overall. So they accentuate the beauty of the leg, and that's supposed to be something that's a draw. Now, first off, 99% Invisible, which is a great podcast by Roman Mars about design and design-related items. He did an episode on high heels, so if you'd like to hear someone who actually knows what they're talking about, go listen to that. You should start there. So some of my sources today are going to be bustle.com, Wikipedia, rack.com, and a few others. So I say that because there are a couple times where I just take an exact quote from a couple of these websites, and that's important for you to know that I didn't say these things.
This is something we've started doing that I really like, because I think a lot of like internet resources don't get enough credit. Yeah. Especially when people just like look up a paragraph and then just like tweet it or whatever. So I'm glad that we do this. And
I don't want all of my information to always come from Wikipedia. Sure, so I try to find it in other places. So it's kind of also like a, hey, P.S., I'm looking in other places besides.
Using Wikipedia.
Yeah.
You also didn't mention the butt.
We'll get to the butt.
Oh, okay, good. I was just going to make sure the butt was included.
We'll get to the butt.
Everybody likes the butt.
Don't worry about that. Now, there's a saying that high heels were created by men to keep women from running away from them.
Never heard that.
Which is terrifying. Now, while that is a terrifying prospect in and of itself, it is not true, ultimately. So, in fact, high heels have a long history that goes back thousands of years. Thousands. And even better...
But the Earth is only 2,018 years old.
It's only 2,000 years old. High heels were originally intended for men and were at one point considered an essential accessory by people of the aristocracy.
Oh, good word.
I will say that at one point I typed aristocrat, and I accidentally actually typed aristocat.
Beautiful.
And it said that it was spelled wrong, and I was like, there's no way.
No, this is the way.
And then it was like, it's not a word, it's a Disney thing. And I was like, oh, shoot, you're right.
You're right.
So this is straight from Wikipedia, and I'm just going to be honest with you.
Okay.
High heels have been made from all kinds of materials throughout history. In the early years, leather and cowhide was preferred. As civilizations progressed, silk and patent leather were introduced, while cork and wood were utilized as cheap resources in times of war. After the world wars and the increase in production of steel, the actual heel was a piece of steel wrapped in some kind of material. This has enabled designers to make heels taller and skinnier without them snapping.
Gotcha.
Which I thought was really cool, because I was unaware that it was actually steel.
Yeah, I had no idea.
So I think in your higher quality shoes, the higher heels are normally going to be steel. Steel heels. Steel heels. Heel steels. I don't... Anyway. The history of the high heel is, in actuality, ancient. So in ancient Greece, some of the first traced high level pieces of footwear, so just tall footwear in general, was worn by actors in 200 BC.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 200 BC, but these were platform shoes. These were not the high heels as we know them now.
Sure.
They were known as chthorni, And they were fairly flat shoes that had wooden or cork bases that were up to 4 inches thick.
Damn.
So these stage-only shoes were meant to help the actor represent visually their social class. So the higher you stood, the more elevated the character was.
That's interesting.
Both literally and in society.
Yeah.
So if you have the taller shoes, you're the more important person.
Higher up the ladder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the interesting thing about these is that they were stage-only shoes. They were not used to walk around in the streets, or they weren't used as part of fashion. They were literally used to do a job, and the job was acting. These shoes were more like platform shoes than the high heels we know today, but like I said, they're worth mentioning.
Sure.
There's also some evidence that the ancient Egyptian used heels in their religious ceremonies, and it's unsure why this type of shoe would have been used, unless maybe historians think it's kind of this like higher to the gods mentality.
To God,
if we're the taller the shoe, the higher to gods you are. Yeah. So like you're better at worshiping them if you're taller, if you're closer to them. Yeah. Nobody really knows, but that's a theory, as it were. Elizabeth Simmelhack of it's BATA, so I want to call it
Bata.
It's gotta be Bata. Shoe Museum in Toronto. So some of our Canadian listeners.
A shoe museum.
Yeah.
It's not called the Shoeseum.
It's not called the Shoeseum.
Come on.
But I've heard it's got a lot of soul. You know?
That joke can be laced back centuries.
You're such a heel.
Yeah.
Nah.
Call it the Shoeseum.
Shoeseum is very good. Shoeseum. You're like really adamant about it.
It's very good. That's a good name.
The Shoeseum is very good.
It's not overly corny. It communicates what it is.
Corny? Like corns on your foot?
Oh, that was not even
You didn't even plan it.
It's going to be a lot of Funyuns.
You're on the Funyuns.
Like a bunion?
Oh my god, Funyuns is food, though.
I know.
A snack food.
That's what they sell at the concession stand
you're
at the museum.
You're on a ball. Like the ball of your foot. He toes all about it. No. You nailed it.
Okay, that was good. You ended on a good one.
I tried. So Elizabeth Simmelhack in Toronto. Somebody who's from Canada, tell me how bad I pronounced that. Toronto.
Seriously, you don't pronounce the second T. I think that's legit.
Toronto?
I think it's Toronto.
You just say Toronto? You don't say Toronto?
I'm pretty sure Toronto people say Toronto.
Just Toronto. This is like that time that
I took a Canadian politics class.
This is like that time that somebody said the slang for Aussie, which is AUSSIE, is not Aussie. It's Aussie.
It's not Aussie, though. It's Aussie.
I know, but that doesn't make sense when you read it.
That's true, I
guess.
It
should be an O and a Z.
Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi. Oink, oink, oink.
Canadians can correct me. I know there are Canadians who listen to this show. So.
Well, Canadians...
I'm pretty sure it's Toronto.
Well, you're probably not wrong.
That was the weirdest way to say that. Wow, way to be dismissive of my correctness. I mean, you're probably not incorrect.
There's never going to be a moment where I look at you and go, you're right.
Yeah,
and feel confident about it. Yeah. So I'm going to say you're probably not wrong. There's probably some truth to that somewhere. Anyway, this poor woman, I stomped all over her twice.
Poor woman.
So she's quoted as saying, the high heel was worn for centuries throughout the Near East as a form of riding footwear.
Sorry, the audio didn't just cut out. No, Lidi's voice actually
my voice broke.
That was so weird. It felt like I was watching the video, editing it, and the audio dropped.
My voice broke.
You're just like footwear. Sorry, that was so strange.
A type of high-heeled boot was worn by soldiers in Persia, and when the soldier would stand up in his stirrups, the heel helped to steady him and secure his stance.
That actually makes sense.
So that he could shoot his weapon more effectively, normally a bow and arrow. So that would hold them in place. Yeah. You're not going to fall off because your heel's holding you up either way, which is that's kind of smart.
Almost like the early form of like a hiking shoe.
Or a cowboy boot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So that they think that's where our modern day cowboy boots have evolved from those types of boots. And it was expensive to have and own horses in this time. So it was kind of also a status symbol to have these kind of riding boots that you would have in the Persian times. So there were often decadent materials and bright colors. So they normally looked different from your normal shoe.
Persians were big on this, right? Like Persian, like Xerxes, and my representation of that era of Persia is just 300, but
jewels, gold. That's my kind of
bacchanalia.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
And then Xerxes is playable in Civ 5. So
is he?
Yeah.
You play as him?
Mm-hmm.
I've never played a Civilization game.
Oh, they're so good.
I'm sorry. Research indicates that the modern-day cowboy boot was translated from this type of shoe. So I had never really thought about that before, but I guess...
Me neither.
Because I never really thought about the point of a cowboy boot.
Yeah, me neither.
Like, I never really looked at a cowboy boot and thought, yeah, it's so you can ride horses better. Like, that never clicked for me. In the late...
My voice just dropped because I said yeah, but nothing came out.
What's going on?
I was like, yeah.
We ate food before this. We had Chinese food.
We did.
And I think they poisoned us.
I think so, too.
I don't think they poisoned us. But there was a suspicious man there.
And the suspicious baby.
The man was with the baby.
The baby poisoned us.
The baby.
Timbled.
If we die, it was the baby at the Chinese restaurant. Which sounds like a Nancy Drew title.
It does, yeah. Or like the Hardy Boys. Matt and Jeff.
But that's not... What are you doing? Oh, you're doing a wrestling thing. Not the Hardy Boys, like the actual Hardy Boys.
Yeah, Matt and Jeff.
Okay.
Multiple tag team champions.
Well, all right. Okay. Anyway, in the late 1500s, a wave of interest of all things Persian swept through Western Europe. Now, aristocrats, see, that's where I said aristocrats. Aristocrats wanted to look more masculine and virile. Yes.
Is that like...
They could bone down and make
a
baby.
That's what I thought.
It means they could give you a baby if you want one. They got big balls.
Oh, big balls.
Big balls.
Not a big honker.
Not necessarily a big honker, but definitely
big swingies.
If you want to have a baby, they could put it down.
How'd you say that again?
A baby. They could put it down for you. So
like a soundboard that just says
a baby. So to look more masculine, they wore high heels. I thought that was really an interesting statement. They chose heeled shoes to accomplish this. So this fad started to filter down into the lower ranks of society, and aristocrats couldn't be seen wearing the same type of heels as those that were lower than them.
Of course.
So their heels got taller and taller.
It's all just a pissing contest, right. Basically.
So the high heel, or a shoe with a higher heel, was born at this point.
Oh, I see. It wasn't just a heeled shoe now. It was a
higher heeled shoe. Not the stiletto that we're used to today, but if you've ever seen paintings specifically of like Louis XIV, and he's got those little like the little French, they're like French styled high heeled shoes is what they're called, I think. And they have like that wide heel on them, and they're pretty tall heels. Yeah. We'll talk about him in a minute.
Short little Frenchman.
Yeah, he was short. We'll talk about him. The heels were utterly impractical in the muddy streets, but that was that was kind of the draw of it, right? Because if you think about it, aristocrats they don't have to walk in the mud. They don't have to be out where the other people have to be, so they don't have to worry about it. And really, the upper class had always worn kind of these impractical or uncomfortable things anyway.
Right.
They were always wearing stuff that looked ridiculous or felt ridiculous because that was a show of their standard in life, not necessarily comfort.
Right.
It was, look what I can afford. I can afford this ridiculous thing that's going to hurt me, but it looks cooler than you.
Yeah.
So, which is really weird. Now, to tower over their enemies was just an added perk to their wealth. So they wore the taller shoes, so now they tower literally over their enemies. Since they didn't typically walk far, and they certainly weren't walking in fields or traveling through the streets, the shoes were a good representation of their standing in society and their level of class. Yeah. So their opulence, we'll say that. Now, Louis XIV, who we just talked about, the Sun King.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how tall he was?
5'3".
Ooh, 5'4". Damn. So close.
I knew he was short.
He was my height.
I'm sorry.
I'm 5'5", actually.
Yeah, you're taller.
I would be taller than a king. He was one of the most notable of high-heeled shoe collectors.
Like Twitter bio says now.
Taller than a king. Taller than a king. Especially because he was only about 5'4". So he wanted to be tall. She likes to be tall.
She likes to be tall.
That's actually in my notes in parentheses. So she likes to be tall. He often wore shoes that made him at least 4 inches taller.
Damn.
Yeah. So
tall shoes.
Yeah, so he's going to be at 5'8" now.
5'8" now.
Yeah, he's leading up towards the 6-footer.
Yeah.
He's getting there.
The 6-footer.
6-footer boys.
Let's talk about basketball now.
And his shoes were normally decorated with depiction of battle scenes.
That's awesome.
So his shoes had
that is the coolest. Can we bring that back?
His shoes had battle scenes on them.
fucking Renaissance battle paintings on our shoes? That'd be awesome.
Yep. Now, I found 2 separate sources that talk about this. Some sources say that his shoes were dyed red and everyone in his court had to have their shoes dyed red as well. And then another source said his shoes were dyed red so no one else's could be. So I've heard 2 separate things. I could see it going either way. I could see it going as someone that he trusts in his court is easily identified as having a red sole on your shoe. Shoes. And I could also see it as just the king is going to be able to have it. Now, the interesting thing from that is that the tradition of luxury that Louboutins have with the red heel, red sole rather, is from this.
Oh, cool.
That's where that's where they get that's what they're referencing when they have the red soles.
That's cool.
So the fashion trend spread to England. Charles II of England is wearing a pair of red French-style heels in his coronation portrait.
Charles II, Electric Boogaloo.
Charles II, Electric Boogaloo, loves the shoes.
Electric Shoogaloo.
Electric Boogashoe.
Oh, very good.
Even though he was over 6 feet tall already.
Nice.
So he was a huge boy, and he was like, you know what?
Up. I want to go up.
More of the same.
Of me.
More of that.
We need more of me. We need more of Charles II.
We need more of me. Now, while it took a pretty good amount of time for high-heeled shoes to become acceptable for women in some areas, women were already wearing them in the 1400s in Venice. So these shoes, called chopines, Chopines, were as tall as 24 inches.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I said chopines, but I looked it up, and some people say chopins. Chopin. Yeah. So there's.
We're in Italy.
So there's a few.
Choppings.
There's a few different pronunciations of this word, so I'm sorry if I butchered it.
Penis.
Chop penis shoes. Oh, you could step right on it.
Yeah.
Chop penis. And they were slightly tilted, and they're a platform shoe, so they're 24 inches, and then the shoe sits on top of the 24 inches of...
How do you even walk in that?
I'll tell you. Don't worry.
She thought of everything.
Now, they were originally designed to keep the mud off of the real part of the shoe, which was normally
I like that.
going to be made of animal skin or satin, which were easily stained. Yeah. So you couldn't have those getting dirty, so you had to use these shoes that were going to put you up above the mud and the muck, and really the sewers, because the streets were disgusting. So the streets were really gross, and to get over that, you had 2 feet of shoe.
Now, had they started putting fish in them yet?
Not yet. I think that fad began in the 60s and the 70s, but...
The 1460s and 1470s?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
okay.
Definitely.
So it's almost there.
Definitely the 1460s. So the shoes themselves eventually developed into decorative symbols all of their own.
Of course.
So they became a status symbol to have those shoes. The ridiculous...
I was going to say shocker that a fashion thing came from Italy.
Right, yeah. I mean, like, think of it as it started in Persia and then it spread to Western Europe, and you've got a French king wearing them. You've got I mean, where does most of our fashion come from now? If not New York, it's coming from Milan. It's coming from Italy. It's coming from Paris. It's like, these are very fashionable cities even now.
Topeka.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Topeka fashion.
Toronto.
Yeah, Toronto for sure.
Toronto.
I'm sorry. I think that's the way it's said. It'd be like somebody saying Louisville.
It was just
Louisville.
It was just very funny. The ridiculous height of the shoes meant that the women who wore them required servants to help them maintain their balance.
No.
So now...
It's like mini stilts.
So now you have people that are actually helping you walk in these shoes.
Hand on each shoulder.
The muddy streets, above all of the disgustingness. You've got your servants that are walking in it so that you don't get your shoes dirty. Now, those types of shoes aren't just a European idea, though. The Japanese had them for centuries before under different names, and it's the same essential idea. So you look as poised as possible, and you keep your expensive clothing from touching the ground. And there's also the Gita, which is a shoe made of plank of wood with 2 others underneath it. So that's a Japanese shoe. So it's a plank of wood, and then perpendicular to that are the 2 planks of wood. And it's the same idea of like keeping you above the mud and keeping you above water, and then your clothes won't drag on the dirt. So
I bet those look cool as hell.
They look incredibly hard to walk in. They've got the same kind of style of like a flip-flop, that goes on
like
between your toes. Yeah, that's what they called it. Yeah, it's like a thong strap, and then it's a plank of wood and 2 planks of wood connected to it underneath.
Mm-hmm. Almost like inverted, or no, 90-degree turned, like figure skates. Kinda.
Yeah, and then
but
2 of them.
The blades.
And then 2 of them.
Yeah.
Perpendicular to.
Oh yeah, figure skate's just 1, isn't it? Rollerblades are 2. My bad.
Are rollerblades 2?
Is it just 1 set of wheels too? I never done any of these things.
Yeah, rollerblades just 1 too. 3 wheels, but in a row.
Okay.
Inline skates is what they're called.
You're right.
Okay.
I've never done either. I don't know.
He's just making faces.
Yeah, well.
Now, those could be up to 7 inches or 18 centimeters high. So,
hello.
7 inches tall.
I'm sorry.
Because I said high. Yeah. You said
I was 18 centimeters high.
I just thought, why are you saying hello? I thought you were saying hi because I not translated it, but because I said it in centimeters instead of inches. And then, no, you were just doing a goof. All right. All right. Eventually, the Chopin, whatever, however you call them, Chopinus, was eventually outlawed in France.
Whoa.
One reason is documented as being that they were most often worn by prostitutes who used them to get attention, which...
Up here. My eyes are up here.
Makes sense. Quit looking at my giant shoes. Courtesans usually like to accessorize these shoes with a man.
What is a courtesan?
A French prostitute.
Oh, okay.
So his job would be to support her as she walked through the street. Nice. Now, it was generally 1 or 2 of her male servants who helped her, but sometimes she would enlist a host of 4 or 5 powerful noblemen to use as human crutches.
Nice.
So she would just have 4 or 5 men around her, noblemen around her, just helping her walk down the street.
That's so cool.
No problem. P.S. She's selling her body, so come check her out. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
Another is that they were blamed for anything from frequent falls, which,
of course.
To like 2 feet of shoe, of course.
2 feet of shoe is a great band name.
2 feet of shoe. 2 feet of shoe is a good band name.
They're a soul band, obviously.
To traffic accidents. When I heard that, I just thought, somebody's getting tired of you because you can't get across the street fast enough, and they're just going to run over you.
Yeah.
They're just going to hit you. Or...
I thought of how do you hit the brakes, but this was far before.
And even miscarriages.
What?
Because women would wear them while they were pregnant and fall onto their stomachs.
Gotcha.
And miscarry. Because of it. Yeah.
That's strange.
Now, Shakespeare mocked these shoes very heavily.
What did old Willie Shakes say?
Willie Shakes had this to say. He joked about the extreme height in style in his day by using the word altitude. So in Hamlet 2.2, the prince greets one of the visiting players. It's an adolescent boy who would have played the female parts in an all-male troupe because women weren't allowed in the theater.
Yeah.
By noting how much, quote, nearer to heaven the lad had grown since he last saw him by the altitude of a Chopin. So he had grown that high since the last time he saw him.
That's funny.
Chopin. Surviving Chopins are typically made of wood or cork, and those in the Spanish style were sometimes banded about with metal. So there's not many of them left. But it seems like they were kind of all over the world at a certain point.
They should make a comeback.
They should make a comeback.
Could you imagine?
So do you remember when like Spice Girls were a huge thing and they had like 6-inch platform shoes
big
and
chunks,
and like looked ridiculous to walk in? Like if you look at shoes that Lady Gaga's worn, like her shoes have been crazy, like giant high shoes. Like I could see them almost coming back and being like 2 feet tall.
Sure. Yeah.
Shoes just for kicks. Here's another quick aside that I found interesting. In 1533, Catherine de' Medici married the Duke of Orleans.
Duke of Orleans.
Is it Orleans or Orleans? Orleans.
I mean, I say Orleans, but just because New Orleans, so I'm not sure.
I say New Orleans.
New Orleans. Oh, I do say New Orleans. You're right. My bad.
I really don't know.
The Duke of Orleans.
The Duke of Nolens. Now, since the bride, who was only 14, by the way, at the time, wanted to appear taller, she chose to go with a shoe that had a low sole and a high heel rather than flats or 2 feet tall shoes. At the time, this was considered a big move, and it opened the door to more women wearing what were considered to be, quote, riding heels. This would be closer in style to the high heels we know of today.
Yeah, low sole, high heel.
So this was considered a gender-bending move by doing this. Nice. By wearing these heels, she was doing something that kind of, like, people didn't really expect her to do. She was 14. Like, she was a style icon at this point.
Leave it to Medici to make history.
Yeah.
So many of them.
Yeah. Which was really cool, because I think it said how old he was, but I thought it was creepy, so I didn't include that. But she was only 14. So, though Europeans originally wore heels because of the connection to the Persians made them feel macho and tough, there was a craze where women would adopt elements of men's fashion into their own clothing in the 1630s, which meant that the fashion trend spread to women and children. So, the trend started to pass down to women, and children after the men had it, because it became a really like hip, fun thing to do, to steal parts of men's clothing.
Gotcha.
And in order to look more masculine and less feminine, they wore high-heeled shoes.
That's so wild.
Which is very interesting today. Like, they would cut their hair shorter, they would wear like big chunky belts and stuff like that.
Androgyny was in.
Yeah, and they wanted to look more masculine, so they wore high heels.
Interesting. Which
I thought was a very smart play. After the 17th century, the heel turned.
Yay!
She did
a wrestling thing!
I was so expecting you to make that reference, and you did it, and I was like, alright, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take it.
Oh, that made me happy.
Men's heeled shoes became more robust and square with a stockier heel, and women's became more slender and graceful.
Gotcha.
Pointed toe shoes were popular for women's shoes at this time, because when the tips would point out from under their skirts, their feet appeared to be small and dainty, which were ideal, as any good woman should be. Her feet should be small and dainty and pointy in the toes.
Like a witch.
Like a witch, indeed. So that's kind of still a style now of pointy-toed, high-heeled shoes.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to think about men have started to turn their shoes into a more masculine direction. Like, we're still going to wear these giant heels, but we're going to make them real stocky and real tough. But women get the skinny ones. Like, they get the slender heels.
They get the dainty ones.
Right. They get the dainty heels. When the intellectual movement known as the Enlightenment rolled around, the focus of the people shifted away from fashion and privilege and more towards education and practicality.
Makes sense.
So aristocrats in England began to wear simplified clothes, less jewelry, and they adopted darker colors into their wardrobes rather than the lavish looks of years before. Since women were seen as emotional beings that were obviously irrational, but still desirable, they continued wearing heels.
Can't live with them, can't live without them.
Which were now seen as foolish and effeminate. So now heels are considered a woman's wear, because we're enlightened now.
Why would we ever wear heels?
We're so much smarter now. Some French authors in the 18th century referenced arched feet and curved heels as sexual attributes. They were nasty. They were foot fetishists. By 1740, men stopped wearing them altogether.
Huh. Wow, that's early.
So when the authors were like, hey, we think having this delicately arched foot and this curve of this heel on display, those are real sexual things, men were like, yikes.
Don't be attracted to my heels.
Men were like, don't sexualize me.
Men never change.
That's what women are for. So women became more sexualized based on the shape of their foot. And like I said, smaller feet were considered more attractive. Sure. That was also a thing in other cultures. So smaller feet were typically considered to be more desirable. You can't carry a lot of stuff if you have small feet. I'm just saying, it's gonna hurt you. 50 years later,
easy to knock over.
You don't have a good
we want a
center
sturdy
of gravity.
queen.
Yeah, give me some big old flipper feet, because you're not going to be able to stand up. You get hit with a bag of bricks, you're gone.
Down.
You're gone. You got flipper feet, hold you up.
I want a lady like an offensive lineman who can just take any defensive lineman coming at her.
I was gonna say, take any hit.
I didn't know where that was going. It didn't sound sexual, so I just went as straight up as I could.
They're gonna be sexual or abusive.
Yeah, not where I meant to go.
It wasn't a good.
She can stop a blitz.
Hey, there you go.
You can fill that A gap.
Okay, well,
it's a football joke. I promise.
I'm sure it is. If I knew anything about sports, I would join you in your laughter. 50 years later, women stopped wearing high heels as well. And this was during the French Revolution. So high heels reminded people of the aristocracy.
Of course.
And they were pretty unpopular during this time.
Yeah, not beloved the
Believe it or
aristocracy in 1790.
Believe it or not, aristocrats not really cared for during the French Revolution. A lot of people didn't really want to look like them, or dress like them, or have anything to do with them. So women stopped wearing heels as well.
Makes sense.
The New World wasn't fond of high-heeled shoes either. In Massachusetts...
New World Order. NWO.
Oh, my God. Okay. Massachusetts Puritans banned high heels, considering them to be possible instruments of witchcraft.
Yeah!
Would you like to know why?
Can I take a guess?
Sure.
I like that I said and delayed you for so long and then asked if I could take a guess. They were symbols of witchcraft because they let them not stand in the pools of blood they created as witches.
Because of their seductive qualities.
Oh,
so because they were Puritans.
Right.
So they were Puritans. So if you didn't wear flats, you were a floozy. You were a floozy.
Yeah.
So they thought maybe you're a witch. So also those women probably had breasts.
She's a witch.
Can you believe it?
Whoa, breasts.
God.
In this day and age?
In this economy? So the heel came back into fashion around the mid-19th century by the Victorians as the art of photography began to transform the way the fashion and female self-image was constructed. Now, the new focus on heels was the instep. A curved instep was supposed to show refinement and femininity.
Great word.
And small feet were the height of sophistication.
Height, because high heels, very good.
Yeah. Small feet was where it was at, my friends.
Big brain, small feet.
Do you know what happened next? Pornography.
Yay!
Pornography.
I didn't know Pornhub was that old.
Pornos embraced perverts embraced high, thin heels long before fashion did.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to know why?
Because it made the butt look good.
I do like they say because they make the butt look good. They were some of the
for the butt to be. You told me the butt's coming back into it. We're gonna get into
some butt stuff. We're gonna get into some butt stuff. Pornographers were some of the first to grab hold of the combination of photography and heels, helping to sexualize high heels even further. Now, during World War II, pin-up photography and pornography made the high heel a fetishized object. A famous sex anthropologist. What a cool title job to have! And it was a woman, nice. Helen Fisher.
Hell yeah, Helen.
Go for it, Helen.
You can.
A sex anthropologist is the coolest title that I've ever heard. You're not just you're not just an anthropologist. You're an anthropologist about sex.
Which is like dirty.
I wonder if I bet she's dirty. Helen,
she's a freak. She's a historical freak. Like she just pulls something
out. But she's a historical freak in the way that like she can talk about dirty stuff and get away with it because it's like part of her profession.
Yeah.
So she's like dirty.
Or she could use some move that's from like 1650 you've never heard of.
Oh my god, she was famous.
She's like a walking Kama Sutra.
She was famous. So she pointed out that at this point in history, it was discovered how sexual the body could appear when posed in heels. Quote, they, meaning heels, thrust out the buttocks and arch the back into a natural mammalian courting pose known as lordosis.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That has a name.
Yeah. So that pose of like their if you think of a pinup, right? Like their back's arched, their butt's out, their heel like normally they've got one of their little feet propped up so that it like elongates the leg. If you put one of your feet on the toe, not flat on the ground, but if you pop it up on the toe, that leg looks shorter and more muscular, and the other leg behind it makes you look taller because it's a straight line against a curved line. It makes you look taller. I figured that out after watching America's Next Top Model. Thank you, Tyra Banks. But if you think about it, when you look at pinups from that era, or even when you think of like Marilyn Monroe or any Betty Page, like any kind of posed pinup thing, they are posed in that way, right? Like their backs are arched and their butts out a little bit, and they're a thicker woman usually, which bring that back, please.
Yeah, thick is back.
Bring it back.
We're back into thick. And embrace the thick.
Embrace the thick. Give me some thick shoes. But they had those little skinny heels on these, like, they just, I don't know. They little feet, big boobs. That was a big thing.
Little feet, big butt, big boobs.
Little feet, big butt, big boobs.
Boo.
Now,
so you say big butt, big boobs really fast.
Big butt, big boobs.
Boo.
Bibbidi bobbidi boobs.
Hey, that's what it was. Betty Boop was just big old boobs.
Betty Boobs.
Betty Boops.
Betty Boobs. Now begins the age of the high heel as we know it.
Yeah.
In 1954, the first stiletto heel was invented for Christian Dior's fashion collection.
Damn, okay.
Do you know where the word stiletto comes from?
Small sword?
Small dagger.
Yeah.
Stiletto is named after the Italian word for a thin dagger. Real quick aside, That's an apt name, considering that a woman from Texas in 2014 was convicted of stabbing her boyfriend to death with the steel heel of a 5.5-inch blue suede stiletto.
Oh. Is that what the Elvis song is about?
Don't touch my blue...
From 2014?
Don't touch my blue suede shoes, because I'll stab you to death with them.
That big Elvis Presley hit from 2014?
From 2014, from the ghost of Elvis. She sat on his chest...
Elvis is dead?
She sat on his chest and whacked away at his face.
Oh!
Yeah.
Of course there's murder. Hey, this is probably the longest you've made it since in a murder.
That's fair. That's the longest that I've gone without talking about murder, maybe. That's
pretty good. What are we at? Like, we're pretty far in.
There's an Investigation Discovery episode about it. You can watch it. You can watch it online, because I did.
Investigate.
It's great. Investigate.
The best part of Investigation Discovery shows is that they just whisper investigate.
Investigate. You can go watch it, because I did.
I'm good.
Anyway.
But thanks.
Back to history.
You watched it for me.
I did watch it, and I was like, this is great. So I will say what I did when I was looking this up is I was like, I briefly recall somebody getting killed in some way due to stilettos. And maybe there's been a few times where people have fallen and broken their necks or broken their ankles or whatever due to high heels and ridiculous stuff like that. But I thought there's got to be murder that's been caused by... It's
happened in a movie, and I don't know what movie it is.
I don't remember. But there were multiple shows and movies based on this premise of a woman killing someone with a high heel. And they had the high heel in question. And they said that it was like self-defense, but then someone else was like, no, she sat on his chest and whacked away at his face. Now remember, the heel is steel. And they're pointed.
Oh.
And they get their name.
It's like getting cleated to death.
And they get their name
from Little Dagger.
From a Little Dagger.
Little Dagger is my SoundCloud rapper name, by the way.
Little Dagger. The secret of the stiletto heel was a small piece of metal which joined the inside of the shoe sufficiently so that the heel and the foot of the shoe could operate separately. So it could actually bend and twist. It was a flexible shoe, so it kind of it will bend with the foot. It's like considered a more natural. Even you can't wear heels for a long amount of time. Anybody. Sure. Heels are awful. It could actually bend and twist, and immediately Hollywood descended upon these shoes and adopted them as a serious sex symbol. And there's a rumor, and it is just a rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. There's a rumor that, while perhaps untrue, is interesting to consider.
Okay.
It said that Marilyn Monroe may have had one heel on her shoes made slightly shorter than the other to produce an exaggerated sexual gait when she would walk. So it would sway her hips more side to side because one of her shoes was slightly shorter than the other.
Like a light limp.
So she would be a little more sway and flowy and look a little more like... She was saying, come hither, when really she was just saying, my ankles are killing me.
Please fix my shoes.
Interesting note. Did you know in 2015 that the Cannes Film Festival reportedly banned women from wearing anything other than heels on the red carpet?
No.
No flats. In 2015, no flats.
That's ridiculous.
Now, this caused a lot of women to remove their shoes in protest and walk the red carpet without shoes at all.
I like it.
Which... That sounds kind of great.
Yeah, that's cool.
Festival organizers later responded there was no official policy on footwear and stated they would remind red carpet officials of this. So the festival organizers what? But the people of the red carpet were like, no, you have to wear heels.
That's such a stupid rule.
Mm-hmm. They tried to come out later and say that there was no such thing, but...
Most people would, if you're going to wear heels, you would wear them anyway.
Have you seen the steps?
Yeah.
They go up.
Yeah.
Imagine wearing high heels. Already you're on your feet literally all day long, and then now you have to go up a bunch of steps. No, thank you. No, thank you.
No, thanks.
No, thank you.
Not Hanks.
Other heels of note are peculiar pairs of heels David Lynch designed.
Oh.
With Christian Louboutin
for... They have Twin Peaks.
Ooh, close. For an exhibition called Fetish in 2009. Now, these included 10-inch or 26-centimeter heels.
Jesus.
Heels designed to keep the foot pointed as if in a ballet shoe. And I've seen these.
On point?
Yes, so they're on point, and then the heel is here. So their foot is bent down. Your whole foot goes into the shoe as if on point, and then there's a heel directly behind it.
That sounds awful.
They look miserable.
Yeah.
They look absolutely awful. And Siamese heels, which were two heels fused at the actual heel.
What?
So they were shoes fused at the heel.
How do you walk in those?
You don't. They're just for show.
Oh, they're just sculpture.
Mm-hmm. It's just modern art.
Yeah.
You know?
Very Lynchian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alexander McQueen designed some iconic heels called armadillo heels.
Okay.
Which Lady Gaga wore.
Oh, are those the ones that are like...
They're all bulky in the front, and they've got the weird heel. I think she wears them in the Bad Romance video.
Are they white?
I think hers are white. So she's had multiple pairs, but I think hers in the Bad Romance video are white, and they're very cool. They look very cool. When I went to New York, we went into many different art museums, but one of the ones we went into had a textile show going on, like an exhibition, and there were like outfits from the 40s and the 50s and up, and they had these crazy looking shoes, and some of those Alexander McQueen shoes were in there. Cool. And it was really neat because I was like, those look just like the ones from the freaking video. So nice. that was very cool.
That's cool.
Today, heels are worn for aesthetic purposes rather than practical ones. Yeah. So think about how far we've come. Like, we used to... True. The Persians wore them. Well, I mean, we used them, I guess, the platform style shoes for acting, and then they were used for a practical reason. They were used so you don't fall off your horse when you're trying to battle.
Yeah.
And now it's like, cool. I want my butt to look good.
Yeah.
Or it's considered what,
Look at my horse while I battle.
Look at my horse. Check out this wagon. Check out this. That's good. Check out this wagon I'm dragging.
Hey.
So that that's how
the kids say.
That's what the kids say.
Check out this wagon I'm dragging.
Now, there's been a couple of protests. So there was a protest where a bunch of women got together and they burned things that were considered to be quote unquote like female imprisonment type of items. So like think of like corsets, bras, like stuff like that you're getting rid of. And they burned high heels as an act in the protest.
Yeah.
And now another protest, like a mile in her shoes, is one of the few instances in the 21st century where it's socially acceptable for heterosexual men to wear high heels.
Oh, right, where they walk the marathon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
In this march, men wear red high heels and walk a mile in protest of domestic violence. I will say that's a nice thought, but it is said that some academics have suggested that by wearing high heels for such a brief period of time and making a point of acting like they don't know how to walk properly in them, these men are actually reinforcing the stereotype that only women can or should wear high heels.
Interesting.
Regardless, it's a nice thought, but that kind of makes sense to me in a weird way, right? Because they're obviously going to be up there like, I don't know what I'm doing. Whoa. I'm just a straight dude.
Practical piece of footwear.
I'm a straight dude in some heels.
Yeah.
As opposed to normalizing it, it becomes something that is a spectacle.
Yes.
Instead of just letting people wear shoes if they want to wear shoes.
Yeah.
It becomes something that is I'm doing this to prove a point rather than I'm doing this because I want to.
Yeah.
You can protest domestic violence and not have to put a pair of red high heels on. I promise.
Good point.
I promise.
Well said.
It's a nice thought, though. It's a nice thought, too. Yeah. It's a nice thought. Which maybe I shouldn't be shouldn't be too harsh on them because it's a nice thought. Now, whether or not you wear them, research has shown that they can cause joint and back pain, foot deformity, vein swelling, and added pressure to the ball of the foot. Some people will even have surgeries to shorten their pinky toes.
What? To fit in the heels better?
Mm-hmm. Oh. Think of freaking like Cinderella. The grim fairy tale where they chop their toes and heels off to fit their shoe in the glass slipper. Or fit their foot in the glass slipper, rather. Some people will even have surgery that deadens the nerves in their feet to circumvent the pain of wearing the highest heels.
Oh my god.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. So
people will go so far as to have surgeries in order to continue wearing these incredibly high heels for the sake of fashion. Yeah. I remember for a really long time, I've talked about Lady Gaga like 3 times already in this episode, but I remember she said once that her fans would never see her without high heels. Like they would never see her. And I remember at the end of one of her shows, like at the end of a tour, she took her shoes off and threw them into the crowd and stood on her tippy toes, like had her arms around her dancers and stood on her tippy toes still to show that she was tall, quote unquote. She was tall. And she's like 5'3". She's tiny.
Yeah.
But she was still wanting to have the illusion of being a tall person, so she stood up on her toes and pretended to still have her shoes on.
Heels,
Still pretended to still have her shoes on. And I remember thinking that was such an odd thing, because now, I mean, she runs around barefooted and does all kinds of stuff, but at the time, like, it was so ingrained in her to think that to be a woman and to be feminine, you had to wear these heels. So that was part of her persona, that was part of her act, but she's obviously grown since then. But would you ever wear heels, do you think?
Sure.
Do you think you would?
I would try, yeah.
I hate heels. I hate them.
Here's the thing. I don't know that I would... I mean, I'm curious. I've never walked in heels for an extended period of time. Like, I've tried them on before, but, like, I have big feet, so it usually doesn't work out anyway. I would like to try to learn to walk in them, but I don't know if I would wear them ostensibly.
Yeah.
But I wear tennis shoes when most people might wear, like, loafers anyway. I have loafers some, but
yeah,
I'm more of a sneaker guy anyway.
I went on a kick for a while.
Yay!
I have pairs of heels. I have multiple pairs of gray heels, and I have 2 really saucy pairs of red heels that are like literally like 5-inch heels.
Jesus.
That I wore once to a bar and then never again. Literally wore some with my friend in Chicago and brought flats with me separately because she had a purse and I brought flats and I was like, I'm gonna need to switch to I'm gonna have to change shoes because we had to walk a couple of blocks to get there.
Jesus.
And then we had to walk a couple of blocks back, and so I wore flats and just carried my heels at that point because I don't have the balance, I don't have the grace, and I just do not have that side of me that's like, I love wearing heels. No, I hate it. I really dislike it.
I could see it, like, it is known that I like to dress up a little bit. Yeah. And I could see it from that point of, like, this is just part of my outfit. Mm-hmm. But I also don't know that I would subject myself to that pain a lot. Like, I, as a man, luckily, don't have to subject myself to much pain for fashion's sake, so I don't know where on that scale I would lie.
That's fair.
So I don't know. I think it's kind of ridiculous that is the standard in some cases, like the Cannes or movie festival, or Cannes, or however you're supposed to say it. Yeah.
It's an expectation.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Yeah. Like if because if you're going to like a ball or an award ceremony or something, women are expected to wear heels while men just wear like loafers or dress shoes. Or
just like, dress
which
shoes.
Which are just normal flat shoes. They're just leather. I
mean, how many times have you seen a picture of like a woman carrying her heels and wearing the guy's shoes? Oh, yeah. And he's walking in his socks or barefoot or whatever.
Sure, yeah.
Because he's being a gentleman and she's carrying her heels because they're miserable. Yeah. The last time I wore heels, I fell.
Yikes.
On my butt.
Oh, I know the story.
I fell on my butt and was like tempted to just throw it across the room. I was so mad. I was so angry. But yeah, me and heels, man. We're not a great mix. There's a ton of different kinds of heels. Have you heard of kitten heels?
No.
So kitten heels are little shorter heels.
Okay.
So they're still heels. I've said heels a lot. They're still considered high heels, but they're shorter and they're normally more used for like women in the office or something like that. Gotcha. So they're not like pumps.
Right.
Also, I didn't know that a pump was a type of shoe and a stiletto's a type of heel. I thought a stiletto shoe...
Oh, stilettos aren't the shoe themselves.
It's the heel.
Huh, I didn't know that either.
Yeah, I didn't. Because when somebody says... I've learned
so much this episode.
Well, when somebody says a heel, I think, oh, like a high heel, like a shoe.
Yeah.
But a pump is a type of shoe, and the stiletto is the actual heel part, because I guess that's the steel part that makes it different. Fashion's weird. Fashion's a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But the 2 things that I've talked about so far that are even remotely feminine, which are lipstick and high heels, I don't know about either of them. So
I think it's super interesting, especially to see that both of them, heels now more specifically, like come from sort of a practical background.
Yeah.
And then they are morphed into, usually because of their association with status, are morphed into fashion things.
Yeah.
I think that's super interesting to hear about. I love sort of the anthropological...
sex anthropologist.
sides of things. And I think that's really interesting.
It's strange to think that they were used in battle. That a heeled shoe was used in battle.
But you think about it like a cowboy boot and it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. When you look at it now and you think about how impractical they are today and then think that their sole purpose, their sole purpose before was to aid warriors in battle and how they were a status symbol for somebody who was rich or was of high standing. And then now it's so weird. Yeah, it's so weird. It's so weird to think of. It's so weird to think of the fact that they're impractical and painful weapons of torture now.
Yeah. Poor feet.
Poor feet. Conclusion, poor feet.
People who wear heels, I'm sorry.
Poor feet. Yeah. We're going to get you a pair of heels.
I'll try them.
Oh my God. Could you guys imagine?
I'll try them on, yeah. I'll walk in them.
That would be fun.
Just good luck finding heels big enough for my feet.
We'll talk about it.
All right.
Drag queens find them. We could find
That's
them.
true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, they have them for drag queens. We can find you a pair.
Okay.
I'm sure we could. Dorm, where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Stormtroopers. Where can people find you?
Twitch.tv/Team Lidi.
We also have Twitter.
We have merch.
Instagram.
Snapchat.
Discord. I win! I think we said them all.
Yeah, I think that's it. Steam?
Yeah.
We're on Steam.
We're on Steam. Catch us on Steam.
We're on Battle.net.
Yeah, that's true.
We're on Epic Games now when we play Fortnite.
Don't
Let's not talk about it. We're not going to talk about that. I'm sorry, I brought... Do you know what I just literally realized?
What's that?
I'm drinking a barefoot spritzer.
Hey!
And
it's all feet related.
It's all...
What a feat!
Feet. I'm getting up out of my chair and I'm leaving. I just looked down and realized.
That's amazing.
That's crazy. Feet.
That's unbelievable.
Okay. You're unbelievable.
Oh! Until next time.
Watch where you click.